Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're embarking on a journey into a classic tale that, well, many of you probably think you know,
Mm.
but trust us, it's far richer and maybe more complex than just a childhood memory. It often reveals some pretty unsettling truths beneath its whimsical surface.
Definitely.
We're talking about J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan.
The original text, yeah.
You've shared with us the full original text of this enduring story, and our mission today isn't just to, recap the plot.
Right.
Instead, we're going to try and pull out the truly surprising things, the profoundly insightful moments, and maybe even some of the disquieting elements woven right into its fabric.
That uncanny feeling it sometimes gives you.
Exactly. Forget the Disney animations and the simplified narratives for a moment. We're going to explore the narrative's intricate layers, starting with its charmingly peculiar domestic beginnings, right through to its profound, often challenging reflections on growing up.
Or, perhaps more accurately, on the very deliberate, sometimes kind of heart-wrenching, choice not to grow up.
Yes.
What's truly fascinating in Barrie's original text is his masterful play with perception. How he constantly shifts between the utterly whimsical and the deeply poignant.
Blurring the lines.
Yeah, often blurring the lines between the two, creating this uncanny valley effect right there in the narrative itself. We'll unpack the characters, not just what they do, but their hidden motivations, their psychological depth, and the truly unique, almost sentient world of Neverland, as presented directly in Barrie's own words. Get ready to maybe reconsider everything you thought you knew about the boy who adamantly refused to grow up.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's open the curtain on the Darling family.
Right.
On the surface, they present this idyllic picture of Victorian domestic bliss, but delve a little deeper, and you find a very unique, almost quirky flavor to their happiness.
That's quirky.
Largely shaped by Mr. George Darling. He's introduced as a man utterly defined by his financial anxieties, and perhaps even more so, his almost like neurotic pride.
Yeah, pride is huge for him.
Barrie describes him as one of those deep ones who know about stocks and shares, but then immediately adds that he quite seemed to know.
Yeah, that little qualification is so telling, isn't it? It hints at the performance.
It really is. And
Yeah.
we see him meticulously, almost obsessively, calculating expenses for his children, like mumps 1 pound, measles 1.5.
A German measles, half a guinea.
Yeah.
He even factors in whooping coughs, say 15 shillings.
It's almost comical the way he tots it up, and it apparently adds up differently each time.
This obsessive practicality, particularly with money, it really raises an important question about the underlying nature of their domesticity, doesn't it?
It does.
Mr. Darling's almost comical attention to finances, considering cutting his own office coffee, it's starkly contrasted by his wife, Mrs. Darling.
Very much so.
She, we learned, initially kept the books perfectly, almost gleefully, treating the household accounts like a kind of game.
Right.
But then, as her mind drifts, she starts filling them with pictures of babies without faces, drawn precisely when she should have been totting up.
Which is such a poignant detail.
It's not just whimsical, it's a profound early hint at her rich, imaginative inner world, and maybe a subconscious yearning for more, something beyond the accounts.
Something Mr. Darling's rigid practicality can't account for.
Exactly. Barrie even subtly reveals that Mr. Darling got all of her except the innermost box and the kiss. He never even knew about the box, apparently, and sort of gave up on the kiss.
Wow.
Which is a deeply symbolic detail, isn't it? Foreshadowing the profound, untouched emotional parts of Mrs. Darling that remain inaccessible to his more mundane, practical nature.
It sets up this subtle discord, this kind of gentle unfulfillment right at the heart of their outwardly perfect home.
Yeah, that underlying tension.
And then, of course, there's Nana. Now, if you only know Peter Pan from adaptations, you might just think of her as, well, the dog.
Just the dog, yeah.
But in Barrie's original text, Nana, the prim Newfoundland dog who serves as their nurse, is so much more than a pet.
Oh, absolutely.
She's an utterly engaged, responsible, almost morally upright member of the Darling household. It's quite uncanny, really.
It is. Barrie paints her with such incredible detail. She has a genius for knowing when a cough is a thing to have no patience with and when it needs stocking around your throat.
Amazing.
She spent most of her spare time peeping into perambulators and was apparently much hated by careless nursemaids, whom she followed to their homes and complained of to their mistresses.
She's like a neighborhood watch and childcare expert rolled into one.
Totally. Her kennel was in the nursery, which emphasizes her absolutely integral role And she believed to her last day in old-fashioned remedies like rhubarb leaf, dismissing all the newfangled talk about germs.
She even carried an umbrella for John.
She did. She truly embodies a human nurse, almost a stand-in for the ideal Victorian caregiver, but, as a dog.
Which is where that uncanny feeling creeps in again.
Indeed, Nana's elevated role and her quasi-human intelligence inject a significant element of the uncanny into this seemingly ordinary home. She's a domestic anomaly, a dog who is arguably more responsible and emotionally intelligent than some of the adults around her.
Like Mr. Darling, his uneasy feeling that she did not admire him just screams insecurity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Especially when he thought she looked upon the children as puppies. It hits his vanity right where it hurts.
And that moment where he pours his medicine into her bowl thinking it's a joke.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And awful. Nana's great red tear and that reproachful gaze, it just perfectly illustrates his immaturity and selfishness.
Compared to her devotion.
Exactly. And his later fateful decision to chain her outside, driven by this desperate need to assert his mastership and a too affectionate nature which craved for admiration.
That proves to be the pivotal mistake, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's directly linked to the family's disruption, a moment of pure hubris that sets the whole adventure in motion and leads to his later overwhelming remorse.
The kennel scene later on.
Yeah, his self-imposed penance. It all stems from that moment of pride and insecurity with Nana.
That contrast between Mr. and Mrs. Darling is just so vivid. And speaking of her imaginative inner world, Barrie goes even deeper with Mrs. Darling's unique nightly ritual.
Tidying the children's minds.
Yes. Tidying up the children's minds. It's described as quite like tidying up drawers, where she'd linger humorously over some of your contents, wondering where on earth you had picked this thing up.
It's fascinating.
She literally folds up naughtiness and evil passions and spreads out prettier thoughts for the morning. This isn't just a charming habit, it's like a literal manifestation of a mother's deep connection to her children's inner worlds.
Almost magical, isn't it? This intuitive understanding of their psychological landscapes. And this concept of a map of a person's mind is so deeply symbolic. It feels like a precursor to, modern psychological mapping.
That's a great way to put it.
Barrie suggests a child's mind is a dynamic neverland in itself, not only confused, but keeps going around all the time.
Full of contradictions.
Exactly. Zigzag lines, savages in lonely lairs, gnomes who are mostly tailors, princes with 6 elder brothers. It's this fluid, ever-changing internal landscape where things like first day at school, religion, fathers, the round pawn, needlework, murders can all coexist.
Wow, that's quite a mix.
It's a rich, vibrant, wonderfully chaotic internal world, far more expansive and unpredictable than the orderly external world of adults.
And the novel even shows their specific Neverland's John's boat, Michael's wigwam.
Wendy's House of Leaves. Yeah, underscoring how deeply rooted this idea is in their minds. It's not in the least alarming by day, but very real in those couple of minutes before sleep.
Right before the dream world takes over. And it's within these mental maps that Mrs. Darling first encounters the name Peter. Scrawled in bolder letters than any of the other words in Wendy's mind. Wendy, quite casually, admits he's rather cocky.
Which is classic Peter.
And remembers a Peter Pan who is said to live with the fairies, and who, rather chillingly, when children died, he went part of the way with them so that they should not be frightened.
That detail always gives me pause. It's so strangely poignant and a bit dark.
It is, and Wendy mentions it so casually a week after it supposedly happened. It perfectly shows how kids navigate these extraordinary things without the adult alarm bells ringing.
She's more concerned about him not wiping his feet when Mrs. Darling finds the leaves.
Exactly. Priorities.
This introduction of Peter is just steeped in the liminal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Existing on that boundary between belief and reality, the tangible and the ethereal.
Mrs. Darling doubts him at first.
Right. She's full of sense now, she thinks, pragmatically assuming he would be grown up by this time.
And Mr. Darling, predictably dismissive.
Oh, yeah. He immediately calls it some nonsense Nana has been putting into their heads, just the sort of idea a dog would have. Classic adult rationalization.
Trying to squash the inexplicable.
But the physical evidence, those skeleton leaves on the nursery floor, explicitly not from any tree that grew in England, found very near the window.
That changes things.
It suggests the boundary between the real and imagined is already blurring. It's this tangible anomaly, hinting at Peter's actual physical presence and the coming disruption.
Even Mrs. Darling feels it.
Yes. Despite her attempts at logic, she feels a nameless fear clutched at her heart. That primal maternal instinct sensing an intrusion.
So those mysterious leaves are just the start.
The opening act, yeah.
On that never-to-be-forgotten Friday, precisely when Nana is off-duty, a direct consequence of Mr. Darling chaining her outside.
His pride coming back to bite him.
Peter Pan literally drops into the nursery through the window. Barrie's description is just wonderful. A lovely boy, clad in skeleton leaves and the juices that ooze out of trees.
So wild, so natural.
But the most striking detail, the one that really underscores his eternal, unchanging youth, is that he had all his first teeth.
Yes. That unchanging aspect, this perpetual stasis, it's incredibly charming, but also, if you think about it, kind of unsettling.
It really is. There's something fundamentally different about his very being.
And that image blends the wild, untamed natural world with this almost disturbing innocence, emphasizing his untouched, primeval nature, completely unburdened by time.
And he's described as very like Mrs. Darling's kiss.
Which is such a profoundly poetic and fascinating connection, isn't it? It links Peter to that intangible, loving essence of motherhood, an emotional core Mr. Darling couldn't grasp.
So Peter embodies a stolen part of it.
Paradoxically, yes. A fleeting, mischievous imitation of intimacy. Mrs. Darling screams, Nana bursts in, breaks her chain,
And Peter leaps out the window.
but leaves behind his shadow, which Nana catches.
Brilliant. And that shadow becomes the tangible proof.
And the source of Mr. Darling's later guilt. Mel, Bella. The shadow itself, looking all draggled on the floor, is almost pathetic.
And it's that lost shadow that brings Wendy properly into the action. She wakes up, finds this stranger, Peter, crying on the nursery floor. Her reaction is amazing. Not alarmed, just pleasantly interested.
So Wendy.
Her first question isn't, "Who are you?" but, "Why are you crying?" Instantly nurturing, instantly practical.
Focused on the emotion. And she quickly discovers his profound ignorance. He doesn't know what a mother is.
Or a kiss, which she finds as a thimble.
And he gives her an acorn button back. He even says mothers are very overrated persons, just completely disconnected from basic human relationships.
This exchange immediately highlights that core, almost unbridgeable difference between them, doesn't it?
Peter, the embodiment of arrested development, is utterly devoid of social conventions or emotional understanding beyond his immediate desires. He's dreadfully ignorant.
Whereas Wendy instantly steps into that maternal, civilizing role.
Offering solutions, wisdom, a very correct sense of interaction. His incomprehension about mothers or kisses just underscores his heartlessness, as the narrator calls it later.
It's not just lack of empathy.
It's an inherent incapacity for it, which defines his unique and often unsettling charm.
Then comes the big reveal about why he is the way he is.
His origin story.
He ran away the day I was born because he heard father and mother talking about what I was to be when I became a man, that pivotal moment of rebellion.
Yeah.
He passionately declares, "I don't want ever to be a man. I want always to be a little boy and to have fun," and sought refuge with the fairies in Kensington Gardens.
He's completely free from adult expectations, but that freedom comes with this absolute refusal of growth. And this is a crucial insight into his core motivation. A total visceral rebellion against adulthood and its responsibilities, constraints, its sorrows.
He sees growing up as a loss.
An irreversible loss of joy, of fun, an imposition of obligations. And his origin story for fairies, when the first baby laughed for the first time, its laugh broke into 1,000 pieces.
Whimsical.
It emphasizes their pure, ephemeral nature, born from pure joy. But Barrie immediately follows it with that ominous consequence.
Yeah.
Every time a child says, "I don't believe in fairies," there is a fairy somewhere that falls down dead.
Which injects this surprisingly dark, almost tragic weight into it.
It really does. It underlines the profound stakes of belief and imagination, the absolute fragility of the magical world. It's not just charming, it's a desperate plea for belief.
Peter then gives Wendy the ultimate invitation. He reveals he lives with the lost boys.
Children who fall out of their perambulators when the nurse is looking the other way. If unclaimed in 7 days, they're off to Neverland.
And he lures Wendy with the promise of telling stories to these motherless boys.
Claiming he needs female companionship because girls are much too clever to fall out of their prams. Pure flattery.
But it works. That appeal of domesticity and maternal care seals the deal for Wendy.
Yeah, the Lost Boys concept is quite poignant, isn't it? A tragic counterpoint to Peter's fun. These are kids truly abandoned.
Highlighting the harsh side of Peter's freedom.
And Wendy, in her burgeoning maternal role, immediately sees the value she can bring. Not just stories, but mending clothes, making pockets,
None of us has any pockets.
tucking them in. This is her immediate powerful draw, the call to mother these motherless boys, a role she embraces with startling efficiency. Described as every inch a woman, though there were not very many inches.
She steps right into it.
It's her destiny almost.
And then the flight itself. Barrie describes it so vividly. The kids try flying just by thinking lovely, wonderful thoughts.
But it doesn't work.
It's only when Peter, hands messy with fairy dust, blows some on them that they lift off. He just scatters it casually from his box.
Almost an afterthought for him, and they get superb results. They're not nearly so elegant as Peter, kicking a bit.
But their heads were bobbing against the ceiling. That impossible feeling of flight.
This detail about the fairy dust is absolutely vital, though. It fundamentally changes the idea that imagination alone is enough.
Right, there's a catalyst needed.
A magical, almost physical catalyst. It's a pragmatic element in a fantastic world, suggesting even boundless belief needs a tangible touch of magic. And Peter is the sole gatekeeper of that magic,
Without his dust, they always went down instead of up.
reinforcing their absolute dependence on him. And their clumsy flight contrasts sharply with Peter's effortless grace, underscoring his unique, inherent connection to Neverland's magic.
They're just novices compared to him.
Exactly. It's a key distinction between just dreaming and actually engaging with the magic.
So the journey to Neverland, not exactly smooth sailing or flying.
No, it has its anxieties.
Huh?
Peter's instructions are famously vague. Second to the right and straight on till morning.
He just said anything that came into his head. Classic Peter.
They experience extremes of cold, warmth, hunger, and Peter's odd feeding method.
Snatching food from birds' mouths?
Yeah, pursuing birds who had food in their mouths suitable for humans and snatching it from them. Wendy notes it with gentle concern, realizing he doesn't even get how weird it is.
Another reminder of how different he is.
And this truly illustrates his complete lack of conventional understanding, and maybe more disturbingly, his disinterest in others' comfort or safety.
He finds Michael falling like a stone funny.
Yeah, waiting until the last moment to save him, seemingly more interested in showing off his own cleverness than in, the saving of human life.
Barrie even mentions Peter can sleep in the air.
By merely lying on his back and floating, showing his innate connection, which emphasizes how casually he risks others. This is key to his heartlessness,
That complete self-centeredness, charming and terrifying.
because he might just as easily let you go next time. They are utterly dependent on his whims.
And Wendy, practical and protective, recognizes this terrifying dependence immediately. She tells her brothers, "You must be nice to him. What could we do if he were to leave us?" Because Peter, carelessly, forgotten to show them how to stop flying.
Their reliance is total. Without him, they are truly lost. They constantly bumped against clouds and things if he is not near to give us a hand.
A whimsical detail but underscores the peril.
The island itself, though, is almost a character. Barrie says it was looking for them.
Like Neverland is a psychic place.
That's how it feels. A place one finds when it desires to be found, a mental space that manifests when the soul is ready. And when they finally sight it, they recognize it instantly,
As a familiar friend to whom they were returning home for the holidays.
speaking to its pre-existence in their collective imagination, a place they've dreamt of and now inhabit.
Neverland itself is teeming with life and danger.
Very much so. Gary paints a vivid picture. Lost boys, pirates, redskins, beasts. It's a place where all wanted blood except the boys.
Establishes the peril right away.
And we meet the lost boys, each distinct. Toodles, not the least brave, but the most unfortunate. Nibs, the gay and debonair, slightly the most conceited, who thinks he remembers manners.
Hilariously.
Curly, the pickle. And the twins, always vague about themselves. Because Peter forbids them knowing more than he does about being twins.
His self-absorption is incredible.
The personalities are clearly drawn, and their communal existence, ruled entirely by Peter, provides structure within the wildness.
But Peter's rules are strict.
Very, like not looking like him. And his chilling practice of thinning out those who seem to be growing up.
What does that even mean? It sounds ominous.
It does sound ominous. It underscores his absolute, almost dictatorial control over their eternal childhood. They wear bear skins, making them round and furry, so when they fall, they roll.
Practical.
And their loyalty to Peter is absolute, unquestioning, which makes him incredibly vulnerable, as we see later.
Their home is cleverly hidden.
Under the ground, accessed by holes in 7 large trees that Hook has been searching in vain these many moons.
And it's surprisingly cozy.
One large room, mushroom furniture, and that never tree sawed through daily to become a table. It's incredibly practical, adapting to their needs.
A fireplace you can light anywhere.
Yeah, all depended upon Peter's whim. Whether it was a real meal or just make-believe, though, this whole setup speaks to the malleable, dreamlike nature of Neverland,
Adapting to their desires.
but also subservient to Peter's whims. And within this rugged home, Tink has her own place,
Her private apartment.
no larger than a birdcage, yet exquisitely furnished. A boudoir and bedchamber, the Queen Mab couch, a Puss in Boots mirror,
Showcasing her vanity.
and her distinct personality, and her contempt for the rest of the house, viewing it from her permanently turned-up nose, highlighting her pride and isolation.
And this is where Wendy really comes into her own.
She immediately takes on the mother role, measuring the boys for their trees, sewing, darning,
Putting double pieces on the knees. Such a maternal detail.
and she tries to instill a sense of their past life, connection to home, by setting those examination papers on their parents.
What was the color of Mother's eyes? Describe Mother's party dress.
She's completely dedicated to their welfare, even with mountains of darning.
It's a valiant, almost desperate attempt to ground them, isn't it? To stop them losing their memories, like Peter has.
Absolutely. And the dreadful number of crosses even John makes, and slightly ridiculous answers,
Yeah.
a melancholy thing for a party dress.
It shows how fast the past fades there.
And how essential Wendy's role is in preserving any connection to their former lives. Peter, meanwhile, despised all mothers except Wendy, and could neither write nor spell.
Total disinterest in the grown-up world.
And the narrator warns, Wendy, you see, had been forgetting too, underscoring the pervasive amnesia of Neverland, its corrosive effect on identity.
Chilling. Okay, from the underground home to the mermaid's lagoon.
A place of beauty and hidden danger.
The mermaids themselves are coquettish, cold, and amorous by turns. Complex characters.
Treating the boys, except Peter, with playful disdain, splashing them.
But Peter, he has command over them.
Yeah, he chatted with them on Marooner's Rock by the hour and sat on their tails when they got cheeky. He even gives Wendy one of their combs.
This subtly reveals his unique status, doesn't it? Even among other magical creatures.
He treats them with easy dominance, casual disregard. Another example of his innate power and lack of conventional social norms. Wendy, meanwhile, is the outsider.
Observing from a distance.
And the serene beauty shifts. Barrie notes the lagoon becomes formidable and unfriendly as danger approaches. That constant balance in Neverland. Enchanting wonder, lurking menace.
And the setting turns grim quickly. Wendy's stitching on Marooner's Rock. A shiver runs over the lagoon.
She hears muffled oars. Instinctively knows danger is coming. She's the young mother trying to stick to rules about mealtimes, even as fear was upon her.
Standing protectively over the sleeping boys.
Refusing to wake them, prioritizing their peace despite her terror. That's described as brave of Wendy.
Showcasing her maternal instinct, her selflessness.
Peter, though, operates differently. He sprang erect, as wide awake at once as a dog, sensing pirates with primal alertness.
Contrasting with Wendy's human anxieties.
His sharp cry, "Pirates," isn't just an alarm, it's a call to action, preparing them for the confrontation.
And the pirates arrive with Tiger Lily, planning to leave her on the rock to drown.
A brutal introduction to Hook's ruthlessness.
But Peter, underwater with Wendy, pulls off that incredible trick.
Imitating Hook's voice. "Ahoy there, you lubbers!" ordering them to set her free.
A marvelous imitation, completely fooling the crew.
This mimicry is key to Peter's cunning, his anarchic spirit. Using deception as a tool, his ability to adapt, manipulate.
Commanding his enemy's crew with his voice.
Wendy, though elated, tries to cover his mouth to stop his crow. She understands his conceited nature could betray them.
Foreshadowing his potential self-sabotage
Mhm.
and Hook's reaction when he arrives and finds out. It's fascinating. He immediately laments, those boys have found a mother.
Cries, "Oh, evil day."
Why is a mother figure so terrible for Hook? It seems to hit him hard.
It really raises questions about his psychology. For Hook, a mother represents stability, order, domesticity, everything Peter, and Hook's own lawless Neverland existence rejects.
A threat to the chaos.
Exactly. A mother brings structure, rules, the concept of growing up anathema to Peter. Snee's ignorant question, "What's a mother?" just emphasizes how lost and incomplete they all are.
Pirates and lost boys alike.
Both groups missing that foundational nurturing force. Hook even muses on the Neverbird protecting her eggs. The mother deserts her eggs.
No, almost wistful.
A strange longing. recognizing its importance even in his villainy, highlighting his own lost childhood, a tragic contradiction.
And we're constantly reminded of Hook's personal torment.
The crocodile.
The tick, tick, tick of the clock it swallowed.
Hook reveals Peter cut off my arm and flung my arm to a crocodile that happened to be passing by.
And it's followed him ever since, from sea to sea and from land to land, licking its lips for the rest of me. Not just a creature, a living memento mori. A personal, inescapable terror.
It's the core of his existential dread. The ticking clock is a literal constant reminder of time passing, death approaching, a powerful symbol of his mortality, relentlessly pursuing him.
A fear that haunts me.
Peter isn't just his rival. He's the agent of his mutilation, the cause of his torment. Peter embodies careless cruelty, acting on instinct without understanding the lasting consequences.
Even as he fights growing up himself.
And Barrie adds that paradox. Hook's pride in his hook being worth a score of hands for combing the hair, despite his terror. Complex vanity, tragic self-deception.
He's a figure of menace and pathos.
Truly.
And speaking of darker currents, Tink. Peter's fairy shows her dark side.
Oh yeah. Described as jealous and filled with the fierce hatred of a very woman for Wendy. A shocking anthropomorphism.
She deliberately misleads the Lost Boys. Screams, Peter wants you to shoot the Wendy.
Leading Toodles to shoot Wendy with an arrow, believing she's a bird. Not just mischief, it's shocking malice, driven by intense petty jealousy.
It's a really shocking moment. Strips away any simple idea of fairies being purely good.
Absolutely. Reveals the volatile currents beneath the whimsy. Tink embodies raw, impulsive jealousy, an unchecked need leading to near-fatal consequences.
And the boys. Blind obedience.
Let us do what Peter wishes. Quick bows and arrows, acting without question, highlighting their innocence and terrifying vulnerability to manipulation.
And Peter's absolute authority.
But this event also serves a narrative purpose. It sets up the little house scene,
where Wendy is healed.
And the boys truly embrace her as their mother, solidifying her place.
So Wendy is shot. The boys are in despair, especially Toodles.
His remorse is profound. When ladies used to come to me in dreams, I said, pretty mother, pretty mother. But when at last she really came, I shot her. Heartbreaking.
Then Peter returns oblivious, proclaims he's brought them a mother.
Initially thinks she's just frightened of being dead. That dramatic irony.
It's masterful juxtaposition, isn't it? Tragedy and comic absurdity. The child's simple view of death.
The boys' regret highlights their longing. Peter's initial obliviousness, then that fleeting awe when something stays my hand from hitting Toodles.
A rare glimpse of compassion.
Maybe. Fleeting, but there. And the kiss, the acorn button, saves her, deflects the arrow.
A beautiful twist, the intangible becoming a physical shield.
Emphasizing the protective power of love. Symbolism. True affection, even misunderstood, offers real protection.
Since Wendy can't be moved, Peter declares,
let us build the little house around her. Characteristic impulsiveness, boundless creativity.
The boys spring into action. As busy as tailors the night before a wedding, they bring John and Michael back.
And Peter makes them Wendy's servants, much to John's chagrin. Why? She's only a girl.
This collective act of creation is remarkable, shaping Neverland to suit domestic needs.
The effort, guided by Wendy's dreamlike singing of her desired home, I wish I had a pretty house,
transforms the wild into a sanctuary.
Emphasizes collective belief and, crucially, Wendy's civilizing, domesticating influence. Peter snatching John's hat for a chimney.
And making it smoke immediately.
Conferring reality on this improvised dwelling, marking it as a real home. Imagination plus maternal intention.
But the peace is short-lived. Back at the underground home, the pirates attack.
A complete surprise. Breaking all the unwritten laws of savage warfare, a code of honor, even among villains.
Hook's motives are clear. Pan and Wendy and their band, but chiefly Pan.
His vindictiveness, so relentless and malignant, fueled not just by the hand, but by Peter's innocent cockiness.
That got on Hook's nerves more than anything.
It explains the deep-seated pathological animosity. Peter's eternal youth, unburdened confidence, lack of self-doubt, an unbearable affront to Hook's aging, tormented existence.
Plagued by self-consciousness.
The pirates use the tom-tom, Smee beating it with a dreadful wickedness, luring the boys out. A cruel trick preying on their innocent curiosity.
Leading to their capture, Hook's malicious triumph is palpable.
The suddenness, the unscrupulousness, disregarding the rules, shows Hook's moral bankruptcy when Peter's involved.
During the capture, Wendy gets that strange, ironical politeness from Hook.
And he entranced her for a moment. Then she's tied up. Hook also shows his strategic genius,
Discovering slightly secret.
that he'd whittled his tree to make it fit him because his water drinking made him swell.
That minor detail gives Hook the key.
An unexpected way into the underground home, showcasing his mastermind probing causes, not just effects. A true intellectual villain.
The capture itself, using the little house as a conveyance.
Symbolizes the forced domestication, imprisonment of innocence, carried off with the kids huddled inside. Yet even then, that subtle resistance.
The brave, though tiny jet of smoke from the chimney defying Hook.
A last flicker of hope and defiance.
Meanwhile, Peter's alone, gone to grieve Wendy in his peculiar way.
By not taking his medicine, sleeping outside the coverlet to vex her.
When Tink finds him, she reveals the truth. Hook poisoned the medicine.
And in that heartbreaking, heroic moment, Tink drinks it herself to save Peter.
Her loving bite, her whispered, "You silly ass."
Echoing her complex affection and devotion, ultimately overriding her jealousy.
It's her ultimate act of devotion, isn't it? Born from jealousy, but ending in self-sacrifice.
Her fading light, growing fainter, powerfully symbolizes the fragility of fairy life, tied to children's belief.
Peter's desperate cry, "Do you believe?" His call to clap your hands, don't let Tink die.
That direct appeal to the reader, breaking the fourth wall, emphasizing the profound power of belief in sustaining the magical world.
Underscoring the connection between faith and the existence of fairies, how vital belief is.
Not just for magic, but for life itself.
After Tink is saved, Peter is galvanized, sets out on his quest.
Swearing that terrible oath, hook or me this time. Absolute focus, driven by personal vendetta.
This elevates the conflict, doesn't it? From rivalry to something almost mythical.
A climactic winner-take-all confrontation, rooted in that deep animosity. Eternal youth versus embittered adulthood, haunted by time.
Peter's described as frightfully happy on this quest.
Despite the mortal stakes, because he's finally pursuing his one true foe, the embodiment of everything he hates about adulthood and mortality.
Peter, with characteristic ingenuity, boards the pirate ship.
Imitating the crocodile's ticking, terrifying Hook and the crew.
And in these final moments, Hook's emotional state is laid bare.
Profoundly dejected, despite capturing the kids, because he's terribly alone and burdened by his crippling good form neuroses.
That constant internal voice, questioning his actions, his worth, his adherence to public school codes.
This psychological portrayal is surprisingly deep, nuanced, transforms him from a character into a tragic figure.
His internal struggle with good form, his self-awareness of being a lion in a cage into which a sparrow had come, Peter.
His inability to hurt Smee, because Smee embodies the best form of all, unthinking loyalty. It adds layers. He's tormented, plagued by his past, his inadequacy.
A prisoner of his own rigid rules. Barrie calls him man unfathomable.
He really is.
Peter systematically eliminates the pirates. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chilling efficiency, until he faces Hook.
The climactic duel. Peter, displaying his own innate good form, even offers Hook his sword back.
And his iconic response to Hook's, "Who and what art thou?"
I'm youth. I'm joy. I'm a little bird that's broken out of the egg. Profoundly self-defining. Defiant.
This battle isn't just physical, it's a clash of ideologies, opposing philosophies.
Peter's good form is effortless, innate, spontaneous fairness, no malice. Hook's his tortured, self-conscious adherence to rules.
Peter's answer about his identity is pure self-definition, the very pinnacle of good form because it's unconscious, authentic.
And that's what breaks Hook's spirit. Peter's complete lack of self-awareness about his own inherent good form is the ultimate insult to Hook's conscious, troubled self, an ideological defeat.
Hook tries one last desperate act, lighting the powder magazine, hoping to see Peter lose composure.
But Peter, unflappable, calmly throws the shell overboard.
In his final moments, Hook sees Peter's bad form, kicking him into the sea, not stabbing him, and finds perverse satisfaction.
Went content to the crocodile, whose clock was purposely stopped for this moment, ensuring his complete demise.
Hook's final thought, finding solace in Peter's perceived bad form, underscores his internal code, his rigid rules governing life and death.
It's his last ironic victory. Clinging to his warped propriety, the crocodile, symbol of his mortality, agent of his mutilation, ensures his end, closes the circle.
The detail of stopping the clock, a little mark of respect from us at the end,
Adds a haunting layer of ironic sympathy to Hook's tragic, self-inflicted end. Barrie grants his complex villain a final, peculiar dignity.
So the children return home, first on the pirate ship captained by Peter, then flying back to London.
And we revisit the Darling home. Mr. Darling, overcome with remorse, has been living in Nana's kennel.
Accepting public scrutiny, even invitations to come in the kennel, exhibiting a noble sense of justice and a lion's courage.
This dramatic, almost theatrical portrayal of his remorse highlights his profound regret, his transformation. His magnificent self-punishment genuinely changes him.
From vain and insecure to humbler, sweeter.
The public's fascination is a commentary on Victorian penitence displays. Crowds cheering his cab, he truly is full of remorse as ever. A remarkable arc.
Mrs. Darling, though sad-eyed, never lost faith, kept the window open, always, always. Peter, in a final act of mischief and self-preservation, returns first, closes the window, bars it.
Hoping to force Wendy to stay. Classic Peter.
Even comments on Mrs. Darling. Her mouth is full of thimbles, but not so full as my mother's was, still unaware of others' feelings.
This moment powerfully highlights his persistent selfishness, his desire to control Wendy, keep his fantasy alive. But Mrs. Darling's unyielding love.
Playing Home Sweet Home on the piano.
That melody, steeped in longing, melts Peter's resolve. He unbars the window. He does not wish to see her tears. Though he's angry, she doesn't get why. We can't both have her, lady.
Her faith, the music, triumphs over his selfish intent, the quiet power of a mother's love. The children return to her arms. But Peter, as always, doesn't. And then the epilogue unfolds.
The lost boys are adopted, but eventually grow up, become ordinary, lose their ability to fly because they no longer believed.
Barrie says it's sad to have to say that the power to fly gradually left them.
John becomes a bearded man who doesn't know any story to tell his children. Michael, an engine driver. Toodles, who shot Wendy, becomes a judge.
A poignant symbol of losing their wild nature.
It's a deeply poignant reflection on the transient nature of childhood magic, the compromises of adulthood. Flying is linked to belief that gay and innocent and heartless quality.
As they assimilate, the magic fades. Imagination replaced by practicality. Wildness gives way to ordinariness, maybe sorrow.
It's a bittersweet, almost tragic transformation.
Wendy, too, grows up, marries, has a daughter, Jane. Peter keeps returning for spring cleaning.
But his memory is fleeting, almost non-existent. He forgets Hook, forgets Tink, forgets he missed years.
Still wants to take Wendy to Neverland, but she's forgotten how to fly.
Her white dress might look like the nightgown at first, but then he sees the truth. I am old, Peter. I am ever so much more than 20. I grew up long ago.
Peter's profound inability to remember is critical, often overlooked. He lives entirely in a present, constant state of being.
Both his charm and his fundamental flaw. He dismisses years, genuinely unable to grasp time's passage or impact.
Wendy's inability to fly is the ultimate symbol of lost magic, physical manifestation of accepting adulthood.
Her wet-eyed smiles, seeing Peter again, convey the bittersweetness of her choice. And his cry, "You promise not to?" when he sees she's growl.
Reveals his distress, his sense of betrayal, powerful emotional disconnect.
Absolutely.
And this is where the cycle becomes clear. Exceptionally interesting. When Peter finally grasps Wendy is old, grown up, he cries.
But then Jane, Wendy's daughter, sits up, asks, "Boy, why are you crying?"
The cycle repeats, seamlessly.
Peter takes Jane for spring cleaning, then Jane's daughter Margaret, and thus it will go on so long as children are gay and innocent and heartless.
Wendy watches them recede, as small as stars, distant points of ephemeral magic.
This raises a truly important question about childhood itself and Peter's role.
Yeah.
Is he just a character or an embodiment of perpetual childhood?
An archetype.
Yeah, continually seeking a mother figure for stories, the domesticity he rejects but needs. The ending isn't resolution, but ongoing generational recurrence.
Emphasizing all this happened long ago.
And Peter, eternally young, will forever seek new mothers to fill his need. That final phrase, "so long as children are gay and innocent and heartless," encapsulates his unchanging nature.
The bittersweet paradox.
Freedom from responsibility and sorrow, but also a fundamental lack of empathy, growth, memory, a haunting, cyclical truth.
So we've really delved into the profound layers of Barrie's Peter Pan, moved beyond surface fantasy to explore the anxieties of the Darlings.
Nana's surprising sentience, her moral uprightness,
Peter's profound, unsettling self-absorption, his inability to remember.
and Hook's deeply tormented adherence to good form.
We've seen how memory fades in Neverland, how magic relies on belief, and how the allure of eternal childhood comes with that significant, heartbreaking cost of forgetting.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Barrie's Peter Pan is so much more than a children's fantasy. It's a profound, almost philosophical exploration.
Memory, loss.
Identity, the bittersweet passage of time. It compels us to consider what we gain and lose growing up, what parts of our own internal neverland we carry with us, even if we can't fly anymore.
It challenges our nostalgia for childhood.
Definitely.
The persistent question, do you believe in fairies, transcends simple magic. It becomes a potent metaphor.
Believing in imagination.
In the wildness within us, in the ephemeral, sometimes heartless joy of unburdened innocence, it's a story that continues to enchant, challenge, resonate.
Reminding us that some parts of childhood never truly grow old.
But simply pass on their wonder and maybe their burden to the next mother who enters the nursery.
Powerful thought.
Thank you for joining us on the Uncanny Valley podcast.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep exploring the stories that shape us and the uncanny truths they might reveal.